Poems by Jeff Vitok. Number 1. Carnival is consumed. Hands, clutching, stuffing, twitching, counting. Hurry to the carnival, the Ferris wheel, the racetrack, the dog-faced boy. Number 2. Sunday moon. I won it at the carnival, throwing rubber balls at bottles. Flat paper cutout of a Sunday moon. Against the glass, against the window. It's a flat white Sunday moon in my bedroom. I put it there to keep the walls together. Number 3. Living inside the box. The set of the mouth is always the same. Floating faces in a field of yellow light. Get your ticket, hit the target, and hands moving, frantically in blinking lights. Number 4. Survival. And roots and bulbs beneath our feet will creep through holes in dark, moist earth. And paper cups are swallowed up before the winter sweeps the fairgrounds bare.
A story by Emmett Mosley. No, I don't want to. Why? Why don't you want to go to school? Because it sucks. Natalie lifted her hand into the air and sent it crashing to her daughter's face. Paula didn't cry. She clenched her face tighter together. Don't you talk to me that way again. You hear me? Paula said nothing. Natalie pointed a finger in her face. She could only feel the spreading burn that crossed her face. She didn't ask her mother why she hit her. She only accepted it as if it were just another part of the things about her that she couldn't understand. When Natalie asked her why she didn't want to go to school again, she said nothing and received another blow that made a tear work out of her one eye. She walked away from her mother and sat down at the dinner table. Natalie went to the countertop to get a box of cornflakes. She shook the box to see how much cereal was left in it. There was nothing but some crumbs. She turned to Paula, who had stopped crying and was staring across the room at nothing as if it were a chessboard and she in check. I've got some things to do today, so don't you go off playing after school. Come home and start cleaning up. I can't do everything around here by myself. She wasn't sure if Paula had listened to her. She didn't care. She found some eggs and scrambled breakfast. As she turned the eggs in the pan, she joined in with the singing of a Christmas carol that came in from the hallway. When it died, she stopped and tried to remember the name of the song. Someone had told her that the office was at the rear of the basement. She walked carefully and confidently, with an air about her that hoped to tell the world that she was an important woman, even if she was about to apply for welfare. In the waiting area, a few people sat like abandoned cars. She took a number. She sat down next to a white girl who was breastfeeding a half-breed baby boy. Her number had been called. A balding man with a thick back led her to his office. He told her to sit. The chair was hard and cold. He sharpened a pencil and asked her a question. No, I've never been on welfare. My husband had a job and was laid off from the airplane factory. How many children do you have, Ms. I'm sorry, I forgot to ask you your name. Turner, Natalie Turner, 1, a daughter. She's 8. Her birthday is in July. Her name is Paula. Where's your husband? Is he at home? I don't know. Why did he leave you? Was he arrested or something? I don't know. Why are you asking me all of these questions? I have to. I have to make sure that you're eligible. Well, I am. I don't have a job or nothing. All my savings are about gone. Well, that doesn't really matter. I'll need your most recent bank statements, proof that you're unemployed, and a copy of your tax forms from last year. Of course, you'll have to get all of this notarized. You mean you want me to prove that I'm unemployed? Yes. How do you prove something like that? I don't know. I just send these things into the state office. They decide. I need all of these things by the holiday. And then I get welfare. The man looked at her rudely. His face was red. It looked like a bleeding moon. Look, Ms. Turner, it's a very simple process. We decide what form of assistance you'll receive and how much it'll be. You don't have to worry. But when will I get this assistance? I don't know. It takes time. You'll be sent literature and some other things. I'll give you my number so that you can call me whenever you have a problem. Wait a minute, I need help now. The man leaned back in his chair. She saw herself mirrored small and distorted in the lens of his glasses. His wife and 3 children smiled at her from a picture that reclined on his desk. I can't do anything until I check your records, and that might take months. It won't. Try not to think about it. Believe me, I won't. While leaving the building, she got lost and turned down the wrong corridor and was confronted by an emergency exit she couldn't use as the building was not on fire. Out of somewhere, on the other side of what she was thinking about, someone was yelling at her. Paula, pay attention. Paula felt as if she had just fallen into the classroom. Everyone was looking at her. She was told to stand. She did. Paula, I was wondering if you could tell us what a common denominator is. She couldn't. She knew what it was, but couldn't put it into words. Something wouldn't let her. All the words she knew were boxed up and silently put away. Paula Turner, this is the third time today you've been daydreaming in class. Are you bored with us, or are you too smart to have to pay attention? Paula wanted to know why she was being yelled at. She said nothing. She stood there alongside her desk with her hands laying flat against her sides. Her face was still sore from the 2 blows she had received earlier in the day, and, as she stood there, she could feel them returning, one after the other, without stopping. Paula, answer my question. What is a common denominator? She thought carefully. The answer seemed to be there, but when she touched it, it slipped away. Mrs. Graham glared at her from the blackboard. Well, Paula, don't you have anything to say? Silence. She listened to the rush of voices outside of the window. A bell rang. Recess was over. No. No what? No, I don't have anything to say, Mrs. Graham. Nothing? Nothing at all? No, I don't. Someone was making fun of her from behind a book. It was Johnny. His tongue stuck out at her. Stop it, Johnny. She wasn't quite sure why she yelled. Her throat felt hot. She trembled and waited as Mrs. Graham came to her. She yanked her by the arm and pulled her up the hallway, where a class of third-graders waiting to go to lunch smiled at her. Their faces slipped past in the way dead trees moved through the space of a speeding car window. Mrs. Graham took her to the detention room, where she waited alone for the principal to arrive. He scolded her with words she couldn't understand, and with a look that somehow seemed bored and mechanical. He gave her a sheet of paper. He told her to write, neatly, 200 times, I will not daydream in Mrs. Graham's class. After he left, she sat for a while and waited for the bell to ring so that they would let her go home. She drew a picture. It was of her father and mother. She looked at it for a while, and then she crossed out the stick woman of her mother. She drew a tidy cap of curly hair across the circle of her father's head. He knew what a common denominator was. If she asked him, he would say that it was no, it's not that. It's the part of a fraction that's at the bottom. That's what it is. She was sure, but not knowing what it was when Mrs. Graham called on her made her mad. On the desk there was carved the word sucks. That's what the common denominator is. It sucks. She turned the paper over and began writing this. She wrote this 200 times and waited for them to let her go home. Outside of Natalie's window it was cold, brittle. There was a light snow. The city was dressed for Christmas. Zeke was in the next room watching the Hoyas beat the Redmen. She was braless and only wore panties. The soft brown of her belly amused her, and she pinched it and watched the blood gathering there. She pushed her chin into her chest and looked down at herself. Her body was deteriorating slowly and patiently. She wondered if it was the reason why Jerry had left her. She remembered the day. It was the 4th of July. They were sitting in the living room watching the Yankees on Channel 11. Jackson had had a grand slam and struck out 3 times. Jerry looks over at Zeke and watches him swat after a fly. Paula sits next to him, combing the weird hair of her rag doll. She scolds it for disobeying some unknown order. Near the window, Natalie yawns at the July afternoon. Lately, he has been in the mood to do a lot of things about the house. He decides to fix a leak in the tank of the toilet. The green arm that lifts a plastic cap to allow the bowl to fill is broken, and only works when it is jiggled for a few minutes. He lifts the tank top and begins to work. Natalie comes into the bathroom. She is behind him and stares into her drink as if she were looking out of a window. What are we going to do? About what? You know, the bills. I don't know. Accidentally, he drops his screwdriver. He fishes for it in the tank. It reminds him of an aerial shot of a drowned amusement park. You know, Jerry, we could get on welfare. Never. I won't allow it. When did the decision become yours? He flies from the tank. He grabs the back of her head and slams it up against the mirror. The glass feels as cold as polished metal. Her drink falls to the floor. From somewhere there is laughter. He realizes what he has done and lets go. Don't you ever touch me again. Natalie, I'm sorry. What is that supposed to mean to me? Later that night, they drive to see a fireworks display. He smokes nervously. Whenever he tries to speak to Natalie, she complains of mosquitoes and moves away. Paula shrieks when a rocket explodes in the air. Today is her birthday. At McDonald's, she asks Jerry a question. Daddy, what's that? An airplane. Where is it going? I don't know, Paulie. It would be nice to know. It would be nice to know everything. "Have you ever been on an airplane, Daddy?" He didn't hear the question. "Where's Natalie?" Flushing roars from the restroom. He remembers. On the way home, they get stuck in traffic. Paula falls asleep as they wait to move on the roadway. Zeke greets them at the doorway of the apartment. He is stoned. He starts a fight with Jerry that ends up having to be refereed by the landlord. The next morning, he is riding on a bus. He doesn't know where it is headed. He just wants to go there. Someone knocked at the door. Zeke went to answer it. It was the old man who lived next door. He told Zeke there was a long-distance phone call. Zeke went to the phone, thinking that it was a friend of his who had wanted to buy a scale he had stolen from a second-hand store. The old man's room smelt like bad breath. "Hello? Hello? It's me, Jerry." Zeke shivered. He looked out of the window. It was snowing. The old man coughed. He searched after a cat that had darted under a sofa. "Jerry, what's up? This is Zeke." "Nothing's up, man. I just want to come home. Tell Paulie and Nat I'll be home tomorrow afternoon." "Okay." Zeke looked over at the old man, who smiled at him as he held the gray cat. The room was cold. He reached into his back pocket and pulled out a pack of Newports. The old man coughed and smiled. His nose was running, and every once in a while he ran his hand across his top lip. Zeke talked to Jerry for a few minutes more and then hung up. Back in the apartment, he found Natalie standing at the window. "Who called?" "Nobody." "Wrong number." He sat down and sneezed. He remembered he left his lighter in the old man's apartment and went to go get it. Paula was asleep. Zeke was outside with some friends of his who wanted to start a basketball game. She was drunk, even though she wouldn't admit it to herself. She sat at the dinner table looking through the evening paper for a giant crossword puzzle. She found it on page 4. For a moment she thought she heard Jerry's voice ringing in the hallway. It was the landlord. He had come by to remind her that the rent was 3 months due. Again. While he talked to her, the urge to scream overcame her body, but she refused it. She sat down and started the puzzle. There were more footsteps, 4 rushed knocks. Whomever it was tried the doorknob and yelled Natalie's name. She didn't say anything. She was afraid of what would happen if she did. She returned to the puzzle, one across, a summer holiday. 4 words. She thought for a moment and then filled in the correct answer, the 4th of July.
6 poems by Keith Eckert. Moon under glass. "Look," I say to my friend on the bus. "The moon, it seems, has wings of refracted light." But he, crushing me with indifference, just says, "Oh," and leans back in his seat for the next couple of miles. Then, peering out again, he says, "It must. It's following us home." And I am pleased. Echoes. A smell, and it happens again. I see her, can taste her. She leaned over to me, her hair gently brushing my face, as she whispered in my ear, and I breathed her in. She dangles continuously her boyfriends. She dangles continuously her boyfriends before me, as if I care to hear about their cares or affairs. Not that I am a callous or uncaring person, or have ever been told so, but I am satiated. The point being, to say you care is not to mean you do, or ever did, or ever will. Emptiness seeks fulfillment, no matter the substance. A hole. A hole in the clouds descended, enveloped me, and the moon, peering down, held its breath as I trod on broken blades of grass, bitten by the snowy frost of night. So still, so still. Percolator. You left, drop by drop, making me feel like cold, wet coffee grounds. Spring. Spring, your green smiles mock me, but your promises I no longer believe. It was the winter. An ending, unending winter that revealed to me just who you are. A winter of goodbyes, lost chances, and cold tears. Now you return, but this time I know what you want. I know you are just winter's dupe.
Born in the Cat by Gil Booker. Things seem to be reaching some type of climax. It is cooler, and nothing seems to move fast in this place that I have retired to. While walking through the corridors leading to here, I saw the captain lamenting the condition of his ship. The bulkheads were warped and cracking in places like an ancient concrete wall holding back tons of earth. How can this happen? Why should it happen? He asked, addressing nobody in particular. His concern for the ship made him lose any awareness of his own state. His head was hairless, his face missing an eye, and he was standing on one leg while placing his hand on the stub of his other leg to hold himself upright. Still proceeding at flank speed, announced the first mate in an encouraging tone as he pulled his completely legless torso along with his arms. My train of thought is interrupted by the arrival of a cat. He is a gray Persian with green eyes and small ears. Is it normal for a cat's upper fangs to protrude from under its lips? Is there anyone left who knows or remembers? The cat is curled tightly against my thigh and fallen into a purring, contented sleep, allowing me to continue. But where? Anywhere, since any place is as good as another. Doing something is useless, but nearly anything is worth remembering. At any rate, I must remember, since I often try to recall dreams. It is reassuring to realize that you have spent 8 hours doing something beyond lying in horizontal trance, and now I am at it again. The captain finally succumbed to the strain and fell into complete disarray, his arms dancing around with convulsive leaps, one leg hopping off down a corridor. I walked on, striding steadily forward with grief. The grief continues. It seems to be connected to my consciousness. Whether it is part of me or has become me, I cannot tell, for I can only grieve. For what I grieve is uncertain. Family, spouse, myself. It is like trying to remember a dream long forgotten, despite seeing or hearing a thing and receiving a certain familiar knowledge, even though I had never before experienced such a thing. Similarly, I feel the grief without knowing why. The cat, who I now remember as belonging to the ship's physicist, is dreaming. His eyelids flicker, and random suppressed noises escape from his head, buried somewhere in that ball of fur. I wonder what he is dreaming and what the noises are directed at. Cats seldom speak without cause. They are reserved and seem in constant meditation. They ponder continually, even seem to ruminate while eating. I hope that in this cat's silence lies the reason for which I grieve. I have a feeling that is what brought him here, because he knows. It continued to get hotter. Most everything was too hot to touch. It started with the climate control vents. They would blow hot, dry air no matter how the thermostats were set. Closing the vent did not affect anything. The air just rushed out regardless. After a while, the vents became too hot to touch anyhow. People tried to stuff towels or pillowcases into the vents, but any material that was used caught fire and was consumed. The climate control technician investigated, but found no reason for the aberrant behavior. Eventually, the entire attention of the crew was focused on finding the cause. Planetary biologists wearing pressure suits crawled through the ducts. Members of the kitchen staff flushed ice water through the shafts until the refrigeration units began to act like the vents and produced that endless rush of desert air. The hopelessness of the situation became more apparent even when the cold faucets gushed forth boiling, scalding water. Even ordinary objects became too hot to touch. Forks, spoons, and even toothbrushes required gloves to handle. Finally, even touching a friend or lover was literally painful. Shaking hands was like grabbing the handle of a hot frying pan. As I had mentioned before, it is cool here. It is surprisingly pleasant to stroke the cat's fur. He even moves slowly. By now, most animals on board had become ghost-like. The utter speed they displayed made their existence seem tenuous. The radio man's dog zipped about like a hummingbird, flashing from flower to flower, then disappearing as fast as it had come. The hydroponic garden was a horrific scene. Rosebuds appeared, bloomed, and then shed their decaying petals as you watched. Worms moved with supersonic speed through the quivering soil. Children, too, became impossible to touch, because of both the heat and the lightning-like flashes with which they moved. They appeared to age before your eyes. Maybe they've always been like that. The cat awoke and interrupted me with a hearty meow. In an effort to gain my attention, he jumped onto a counter just beside my head. The leap was fluid and graceful, as if gravity had a smaller effect on him than others. In the fact there had been some reports before I departed of an interruption of gravity, but the cat's case was something different. I have not reached a point where I am too confused to notice grace. This I found comforting. As I was looking for something to feed the cat, someone knocked at the door. Hoping it was news, I rushed to the door and asked, "Are things returning to normal?" The someone replied, "It could if you let me in." Almost as the door slid open, he rushed past me and dropped a brimming knapsack on the floor. After doing this, he stood erect and rubbed his formerly burdened shoulder. "Phew," he exclaimed matter-of-factly. "Why did you come here?" He looked at me and blankly imperated, "Why?" It was at this point that the person's identity surfaced in the commotion of my memory. He was an assistant in the physics lab, the one who prepared experimental apparatus for its intended use. While I concentrated on remembering his name, he began to search for something which could provide nourishment. The quest concluded almost simultaneously with my own. Erwin Bourne had noticed the cat. The cat, of course, had recognized him earlier and was now sitting atop an issue of Omni, conducting a thorough preening, totally unaware of the scrutiny he was receiving. "I've been looking for that cat," he remarked in a satisfied tone. "We made the box especially for him." "What box?" I questioned, momentarily considering the possibilities. "Schrodinger's box, the great Gedanken experiment." I remember that Schrödinger was a physicist who lived in the early nuclear age. He had proposed a similarity between the behavior of nuclear particles according to the quantum mechanical theory and that of the organic molecules involved in genetics. Whether in answer to my question or according to his own desire, Bourne had begun to unpack the contents of his knapsack. The cat coolly glanced up to notice his efforts, then returned to its own. "This can't be coincidence," he remarked as he pulled objects from his bulging sack. "It is too improbable. You finding the cat, me finding you in this room while I still had the box." As Bourne finished removing things from the knapsack, the cat turned to lie on its other side in order to wash its hind legs. Bourne set upon assembling the pieces on the floor. I was impressed when he and the cat completed their task simultaneously, and looked at me. They had finished together to the very millisecond. It did seem as if something other than chance was involved. I just hoped that it was not me. I noticed something projecting from the side of the box and asked what it was. "The gun," Bourne replied with ecstatic pride. "A gun? To shoot the cat." "Shoot the cat?" "Or not shoot the cat. It all depends on the photon." "The photon?" "Yes, Schrödinger's experiment. There is a small emitter right here. 5 seconds after the lid is closed, at 0 time, it will release 1 photon. This photon will then hit a half-silvered mirror. According to the quantum mechanical theory, the probability of the photon being reflected is precisely 1/2. If it passes through, the trigger will be actuated and the gun will shoot. If not, then the gun doesn't and the cat lives. After you put the cat in the box and close the lid, you go away and wait. What happens? The cat falls asleep? It gets shot. Or not shot," he answered, grabbing my arm to accentuate the point. "The gun is absolutely quiet, and the box is totally soundproof. It's impossible to tell whether the cat has been shot or not shot until the lid is lifted. It is the only way. Can you see that this is central to the premise of quantum theory? The entire system, on our level or at the quantum level, is not complicated before 0 time. Afterwards, the system can only be described by a linear combination of 2 waves. Since the behavior of the photon cannot be predicted, the state of the system that it determines by its behavior cannot be predicted either. It just can't be done. If you desire any certainty, you must determine it yourself." "How?" "By opening the lid of the box," Bourne replied disappointedly. He eyed me suspiciously like a policeman who has just arrived at a murder scene to find me holding the body. "To determine if the cat is dead or not." "You mean," I asked warily, "until the lid is lifted, the cat has neither been shot or not shot?" "Exactly," Bourne exclaimed, apparently relieved that I'd answered correctly. "Why is there only one probability considered after the lid of the box is opened? Why aren't we incorporated into the system when we open the box?" Bourne paused and skeptically asked, "How?" "We're including ourselves in the system when we open the box. A superposition of 2 waves. Why should it exist only inside an open box? When we open the lid to look, we would both be looking at a dead cat and a live cat. Do you understand?" An intense look formed across Bourne's face as he turned and walked a distance away. "You are complicating an already complex issue," he replied in a ruefully solemn tone. "Am I?" He turned and faced me with an expression of desperation. "Don't you see? It's all there is. The box and the cat. They both ended up here together. We must put the cat in the box. Will you help me?" Appalled, I said no. "I beg you, just for a moment, only a moment." "Why?" "This horrible uncertainty is unbearable," he blurted, close to tears. While I stood there, vacillating between pity and disgust, something unexpected occurred. The cat, who had up to this point been sitting contentedly, lightly sauntered over to the box. It dubiously examined the box, and then, with its usual fluid grace, jumped into the box. His tail barely had time to clear the opening before the lid closed with a resolute thump. Bourne and I looked at each other and then the box. The moment was shrouded with a thick, all-encompassing silence. There was nothing, and nothing would happen until the lid was opened. I was reminded of the legend of Pandora. After the box had been opened and all the evils had been released, there remained something incongruous. Was it hope or a dead cat? It was impossible to remember. We stared impatiently at the box, then at each other. Finally, overcome by the moment, I asked imperiously, "What are you attempting to improve?" "The cat will either be dead or not dead," he responded obediently. "I only want certainty." I stared, momentarily overwhelmed by the recent events. Then abruptly I stood and walked over to the box and dramatically flung the lid aside. Surprised, Bourne struggled to his feet and stumbled over to peer expectantly into the stark emptiness of the box. Bourne froze and stared, expressionless. "What happened to the cat?" he finally managed to say. "Where is the box?" "Here." "What is here?" "Here is now." "That is what we used to think," I replied, "but the boxes should actually be much larger." Bourne looked about in quiet confusion, and was not even startled when the roof of the cabin was peeled back to reveal the inky blackness of space interrupted by the countless spots of light. In a barely audible tone he gasped, "How?" I still try to remember my dreams, and I am successful in recalling one which seems to return frequently. I see the cat standing in the box in a light clearer than my own memory recalls. I will miss that cat. Could he have found whatever it was that we lost?
To hell with this nap. What do I need to rest up for anyway? Doctor says, listen, Walter, if you don't learn to take it easy, pretty soon you're going to explode. You should learn to take better care of yourself. The body can easily play tricks on you. I don't have to remind you about your family's medical history. The decision is up to you. Almost 8 o'clock. Sunday night. Time for All in the Family. What else is on? Nothing. Can't they put anything good on anymore? Whatever happened to stars like Ed Sullivan and Jackie Gleason? Bing Crosby. Now that was some entertainment. Come in. Come in. Just open the door and come in.
I'm sorry, I didn't want to just barge right in.
Got an open door policy around here. You want to come in, you open the door and come in.
Oh.
Well, what do you want?
Oh, of course. My name's Kelly. I came regarding your ad in the paper. Male roommate needed. Reasonable place and price. Number 999 Taft Apartment.
I know what it said. I wrote it.
I decided to stop by on my way home from work. I was transferred and promoted to store supervisor for the new 7-Eleven downtown.
Great. Well, take a look around. This place needs a little straightening up. I hope you don't mind.
No problem. I'm sure I've seen worse.
What do you mean by that?
I don't know. I guess this place isn't that bad. But that sofa bed. Is that the only bed?
That's my bed. There's a spare room next to the kitchen. That'll be your room.
Do you mind if I take a look?
Sure, go ahead. That's what you're here for.
Right. That room is full of trash. I could hardly move. How can you live like this?
Got to put it somewhere. Sorry, I've been meaning to clean that room. Just let it slide too long.
I'll say, there's enough crap.
I said I can fix it up.
Well, I'd hope so. This apartment needs a thorough cleaning. If I ran my store like this, I'd be closed by the Board of Health.
This ain't no convenience store. It's my home. I like things my way.
I don't need this place. There's plenty of other apartments in town.
Depends how much you got to spend.
Not enough. Plus, this newspaper's full of dead ends.
I was never much for newspapers myself. Here's what I like. Reader's Digest. Keep them under here. Get a lot of good articles.
You really think so?
Of course. Hey, maybe they got an article for you on how to find apartments easy. I got back copies.
That won't be necessary. Maybe I should be going.
Wait, take a look at this month's issue. Confessions of an Ex-Smoker. Do you smoke?
No, I quit.
Me too. Had no choice. Doctor's orders. Haven't had one for a couple of years now. This article says cigarettes can cause cancer, emphysema, bronchitis.
Don't believe everything you read.
You know, I used to know a fellow who had bronchitis. Used to see him sitting down by the park. He would wheeze and cough and spit, but he still kept lighting up them cigarettes. This went on for years. Then, one day, he wasn't around. Found out that he died. Probably of that bronchitis. The way his chest used to heave, you'd think he was going to explode. But he was up in years, too.
Well, maybe he just died of old age.
Nope, this article says cigarette smoking can cause bronchitis, which, if not properly taken care of, can lead to serious problems. I'll bet you if he didn't smoke, he'd have lived at least a couple of more years.
What's the difference? The guy must have enjoyed smoking if he kept it up that long. Maybe it made him happy.
The Surgeon General warns against
I've
it.
been saying that for years.
Hey, do you remember your first cigarette? I remember taking my first drag. In an alley behind a schoolyard with my back against the wall. 3 of us huddled in a corner. It was my first time. The other 2 were experienced. We only had 5 minutes between classes. Between the excitement and choking on smoke, I puked. But the other guys didn't find out. I made sure of it. Felt sick, but kept smoking because everybody else did. Finally, I started liking them. I've been really enjoying a good smoke. Pack my cigarettes tight and spark it up with my silver lighter. You know the kind, with the initials on it.
Yeah, sell them next to the register. Make a pretty good profit off them cheap lighters.
What do you mean? I didn't use no cheap piece of tin. I'm talking about a family heirloom. That was the hardest part about quitting, knowing that I couldn't use my lighter anymore. This article's right. Smoking is an addiction. It doesn't calm you down. It's a stimulant. A former smoker will remain recovering for the rest of his life.
I quit and I don't get cravings anymore.
I could go for a cigarette right now. All this talk about smoking. Guess I am a recovering smoker. Glad I saw that lighter. This article's right. Guess there'll always be that temptation.
Why don't you cut that article out and keep it around for next time you get a craving?
Nah, I like to save the whole magazine. That way I'll always have it. And right here, under my bed, so I can get to them any time.
I see.
That reminds me, maybe I can find that article for you. I swear I remember reading something about it. Maybe it was in the Inquirer. I'm pretty sure it was. Hey, look at this. Rats forced to smoke cigarettes. Studies by experts show...
Wait a minute, let me see that. This article's trash. They put that crap on the cover so you buy the damn thing. Works every time. Keep them on the counter. Get suckers while they're waiting in line.
Hold on. This magazine's got some good articles. Stuff anybody'd like. Look at this. Woman loses 180 pounds with new diet plan. Can you imagine that?
Just a second. How much did she weigh in the first place?
It says here she was a whopping 310 pounds only 6 weeks ago.
That's impossible. Shit, that's 30 pounds a week. There's no way anyone can do it. I don't care what kind of
But look
diet.
at the before and after pictures. You can tell.
Don't go by that. Trick photography. Probably just blew it up to make her look like a whale.
Hey, check this out. This doctor in Southern California can guarantee improvement. Says he knows all the tricks. Stomach stapling, fat suction, slimming belts, hydrophilic.
How can they print that shit? There ought to be a law.
But this article says rapid weight loss proof. Powerful biochemical action shrinks fat cells. How do they get all those grapefruits into one tiny pill?
It's just another ripoff.
But it says we guarantee you will lose pounds or inches non-stop. If not 100% satisfied within 30 days, simply return for no questions asked refund. Seems like a good deal.
Where does it say to send the order?
Here it is, box 909, Tucson, Arizona, 85713.
There you go. See what I said? It's a scam. You know what they do? They get everyone to send all this money to some post office box in Tucson. You'll probably never see those grapefruit pills. Somebody just comes and picks up the money.
You could always cancel the check.
True, but if you don't do it fast enough, these guys cash in and split to another town, another post office box on them. Actually, it's a pretty clever way of making money. Even if you got busted, the charges wouldn't be that bad. They sell just about everything in here, don't they?
Yep. I like them books they sell.
You mean like beat taxes? Change your luck. Here's a good one. Become a self-made millionaire?
Exactly. That's them. I bet you pick up some pretty good tricks.
Nah, I doubt it. The only good aspect of these books is the psychological edge.
How's that?
These books can't promise you anything, but they can possibly work. Authors make money by selling their secrets. You hope to make your own money. They get you thinking big, into your subconscious, like brainwashing.
Where'd you learn that stuff?
I took a couple psych classes in college.
College? You go anywhere around here?
Shit. There's a story behind that question. I'm still finishing up. First, I went to school in D.C. Boy, I loved it. Up early every morning.
D.C., huh? See any action down there?
What do you mean? Action? Man, that town's full of weirdos. Diplomats, tourists. You should see the way they drive.
No. I meant a different kind of action. I meant tragedies. You know, killings, bombs, terrorists. I'm sure you saw some.
I saw this one robbery. It was in the supermarket. All I needed was milk. Going up to the register, I see this guy. He had a bulge under the heavy army jacket.
That shit goes on every day. How do you think those people live? Everybody's got to eat. I was talking about something that would make the news. You know, a big story. Something important. Something in the headlines.
Ted Koppel. Last night. Did you see it?
No. I must have been resting or something. What happened?
I watch it every night. You should have seen it. Man, was that place a mess.
What place? Where?
The crash. The plane crash. Yesterday, nobody even heard of this place. But today, it has risen from the obscurity of small-town America to the prominence of a major city. And now, from a nearby hilltop, we are viewing this mysterious and catastrophic DC-9 airplane crash.
What did you see?
It might have been an emergency landing or something. Right now, the plane's fuselage is in pieces. Both wings are shattered and fuel is depleting rapidly.
How did it happen?
Only after investigators have located the elusive black box can the true cause be revealed behind this most unfortunate accident.
Black box, but the messages, right?
The alternating sounds of machinery and the screams of trapped passengers pervade the smoky setting. Twisted metal is sticking to the ground, and only the airline's insignia is visible among the rubble. Hold on, I'll try to get an update.
Maybe we can get a news update from one of these other stations. I'm dying to find out what happened.
Yo, what are you doing that for?
It's an old set. I know what I'm doing. What do you think's going on there?
It's probably really confused. Hopefully, most of the survivors have been removed from the wreck, but the overpowering smell of jet fuel still lingers. If this gets bad, we might have to move. Hold on, rescue workers are scrambling. Fire's beginning to spread. It's forming a circle of flame. If they don't put it out soon, it looks like it's going to. If they don't put it out soon, it's gonna go.
Never did get good reception. I wonder why. No, I think that crash might have been an inside job. Maybe somebody famous was on board.
What's the difference? What's done is done.
Or maybe they hit a bird on takeoff. Who knows? But it doesn't look like I'm gonna find out for sure. Damn. And I don't feel like taking a nap either.